Let me just start by saying I've never robbed a bank.
Get down on the ground! Get down on the ground!
Never even planned it, really. I mean, I thought about it, what would it be like, escape routes, stuff like that, but that's normal. Obviously, it's not a real thought, not a plan, just a fantasy. Video games thrive in situations like these. Enough time has passed so we can all acknowledge that jumping off a rooftop in Assassin's Creed, or convincing a man to gut himself in Fallout 3, or stomping someone's head in Hotline Miami doesn't mean you want to do that in real life. I mean, you don't want to do that in real life. There's a fantasy when it comes to crime and media, and I think games are only delivering about half of it. The main focus of games like these is doing whatever you want. Want to hit a guy with a dong-shaped baseball bat? Want to fly a helicopter into a billboard and fucking die? Want to drive your car on a sidewalk and see how many pedestrians it takes to stop it? Almost necessarily, a game like this will have a police system, and to some degree, they usually all work the same way. When violent crimes are committed, police are spawned in and they escalate force until the player dies or until they stay out of sight for long enough. I'm not one to attack the police system in GTA or Watch Dogs or whatever. I think they provide what they're attempting to for the most part. They're a driving and combat challenge that can be accessed whenever you want. But regardless of the game, they tend to fall short in a few key areas. In most police systems, there's an invisible timer for when the player was last spotted, and it runs out slowly until the player is no longer a target for the police to investigate. This makes sense, since staying out of sight is what you're going for in a police chase. Obviously, the timescales have to be accelerated, since real manhunts can last for hours, days, or weeks, but the bigger issue is with the binary. The player's a wanted criminal. They did blow up all those hobos and light their bodies on fire, but then, oh, the timer ran out? It's all good, man. Your Honor, you can't throw me in the slammer. The statute of limitations for murder in Stillwater is 2 minutes, and shut the fuck up, you wasn't even there. The cop that saw you commit the 8th wrench killing now sees you walking down the street 5 minutes later, still holding the bloody tool? Well, it's been 5 minutes. Mafia 2 is a slight step above the competition in this regard, since it comes in earlier by punishing speeding and by having the player and or their car stay wanted after the chase. This can be fixed by changing the color of the car or the letters on the plate, as well as changing outfits or bribing the police, since you do work for the Mafia 2. Joe's Adventures. While this does add a small bit of consequences to your illegal activities, it's more flavor than anything else. These statuses aren't hard to deal with, but they help encourage you to behave like Vito Scaletta would, which I would argue is the point of the system. Role-playing through mechanical incentives. We'll come back to that. So, lasting consequences? Sure, that's good. What about during the chase? Well, here's another problem. Let's talk about drive. After the character and his car are introduced, his accomplices enter their target building. The alarm goes off, and Ryan, I drive, literally me Gosling, starts a timer. He told the robbers in the previous scene that they get 5 minutes, and we feel those minutes go by. He pulls out a police scanner, and we hear it compete with a baseball game on the radio. After a bit, we hear a dispatcher call out the shot they used to open the door. That timer is real now. As they leave, the scanner calls out the make, model, and color of the car. They won't be able to blend in like they hoped. Speaking of blending in, as a cop car approaches the street they're on, Mr. Drive quickly turns his car to the sidewalk and cuts the lights, hiding in the dark. The Watch Dogs series actually has this as a mechanic. And while I like it there, it acts as a bubble of invisibility around the player's car and doesn't account for location whatsoever. So the best way to use it isn't to park in a parking spot or something, it's to stick yourself in weird places a car will never drive, since it means the cops won't drive there and see you. What this system needs is an understanding of where cars are meant to be, so that I can tell the difference between hiding in an alley and hiding on City Hall's lawn. Here's a moment that happens twice in this scene, and it never happens in video games. Acting natural. As they cross a bridge, a helicopter looks for them from above. They follow the speed limit and move along until they're spotted, and then the horses come into play. Now the goal is getting off the bridge as soon as possible. Once he does, he gets overhead cover and then tucks himself into a concealed area under a bridge and hides. He hears the helicopter being reassigned and hears it leave. This quiet moment is tense, and it's not the only one coming. Next is my favorite part of the whole scene. They slowly creep up to a stoplight and see a police car across from them. For a moment, you may think they won't be noticed, but that thought is quickly and quietly removed. The music ramps up, but it's not action yet. They may be planning to follow, and maybe Ryan can lose them stealthily. Green light, lights. Then the engine goes, and it's exactly what you expect. He takes a dangerous turn into oncoming traffic, which dissuades the cop, and he loses him. This contrast between quiet and loud moments and the tension when you hope quiet isn't going to become loud is exhilarating. This is absent from almost every crime system. First of all, who cares if you get caught? Most likely your goal isn't to get away, it's to fuck around until you die or get away. There's no consequence, and even if there was, the mechanics don't encourage any quiet. If you hide in a parking garage in GTA, the police will know you're there, exit their vehicles if they have to, and walk directly to your location. Hiding in an open world game is about getting to a position that's either inaccessible or so inconvenient that by the time the police reach you, the timer runs out. That's not hiding, it's running out the clock. He enters into a parking garage and the baseball game pays off. It wasn't for entertainment, it was a distraction. His window's up, and he's gone in the wind. Good scene, huh? When it comes to loud car chases, on the other hand, I'd put them in two broad categories: the Baby Driver kind and the Heat kind. In Baby Driver, it's all about the driving. It's a bit colorful, but it's cool, and the car never gets touched. This is an exercise in dodging obstacles, more like a racing game. Even racing games, though, don't push for the same consequences, considering a lot of them let you defeat police cars by ramming them with your Subaru. There is a trend in recent Need for Speed games to make capture by police mechanically punishing, but to make up for that, they let you survive brutal crashes, and the time it takes for cops to grab you is long. The cops in Baby Driver don't shoot at the criminals because the criminals aren't shooting at them. Sure, it's an armed robbery, but the guns aren't being fired and the police want to keep it that way. On the other hand, the moment the police are spotted after the robbery in Heat, shots are fired and they continue for a while. Once the car gets moving, the shooting doesn't stop, and eventually the driver is killed, turning the scene into one of the best shootouts on film. This is what GTA is like. These cops are trying to kill you, and they make that very clear.
Killing makes my dick hard!
But that's the thing. They're always trying to kill you. I actually have a clip from a friend who edited the music from this scene into a clip of him driving in GTA. Do you notice a difference between these two cars? One of them is fucking armored, because it would have to be to do this in this game. Even Watch Dogs, a game that has an animation for fake surrendering to police, only allows that at the lowest wanted level. And in general, the police are shooting to kill. Rob a liquor store? Lethal force. Punch a stranger? Lethal force. Drive away for too long? Lethal force. There's no room for Ansel Elgort to do his cool spinny moves, because unless you escape in the first minute, it won't be long before you're slammed into a wall and filled with holes. But why are these two systems so separate? This isn't two types of chases necessarily, it's just sort of how it ends up most of the time. The justice system and these films account for this. In the opening heist from Heat, one of the robbers shoots a guard in a way that pisses off the rest of the crew. But they all realize collectively that at this point, the consequences of premeditated murder already apply. So it's better to eliminate the rest of the witnesses.
MO is that they're good. Once it escalated into a murder 1B for all of them after they killed the first two guards, they didn't hesitate. Pop guard number 3, because what difference does it make?
This is inexplicably handled pretty well in Watch Dogs Legion of all places, where police are slow to pull firearms until you do, or they eventually realize they're outmatched in melee combat. It's actually kind of inappropriate for that game since the country is supposed to be controlled by a fascist regime, yet they have more restraint than 90% of video game cops. But there's an obvious reason that these cops are like this. What crimes are you committing in games that cops can go after you for? Stealing cars and shooting people. That's basically it. So of course these cops are just here to give you someone to be chased by in cars and shoot you with guns. When's the last time you got caught at a drug deal in a GTA game? Speaking of drugs you won't get arrested for, let me take a moment to talk about this video's sponsor, 5CBD. 5CBD sell fully legal hemp-based gummies with a 5-to-1 ratio of CBD to minor cannabinoids. This means you can get the buzz you'd expect along with, at least for me, a significant calming effect. There's Surge, a sativa-type blend meant to keep you vibing while keeping you productive. Vibes, similar to a hybrid for an experience that tilts the scale toward the buzz. And Chill, most similar to an indica for when you are in full swing, kickback, and relax mode. They sent me their Daily Buzz gummies, and I can tell you with absolute certainty that they are effective as advertised. Classic edible advice here, at least for me, the effect came in 3 distinct waves over like an hour, so don't take more than one until you know how it affects you. I was tempted on my first go, then wave 2 hit me, and I was very glad that I had played it safe. Shipped directly to your door, these gummies are convenient, effective, and enjoyable.
Here's your package, sir.
Use the link below to get 42% off site-wide until April 20th with my code, BUTTER420. Must be 21 years or older. I got BUTTER420 as a promo code. Look ma, I made it. GTA 5 has freedom to a degree, and online it's at least capable of rewarding criminal behavior with something. It's mostly number go up BS due to its horrible inflation, but it's passable, I guess. It's got its spectacle, and it's got violence. But what it's missing is fear. Risk. A major part of the criminal fantasy is the constant knowledge that your life, or at least your freedom, is on the line. When the stopwatch starts, when the bank doors open, that's when it's too late to turn back, and if you fuck it up, you can die or end up in a cage. A greater risk means a greater reward for skillful play and planning, and more investment in the world and your character. Wouldn't it be better if the scale of response was based on the crimes you did? Wouldn't it be better if police remembered what you did and could identify you after a chase, at least locally? Wouldn't it be better if the decision between going to jail and pulling a gun on the cops was a real choice with tangible or even massive consequences? What if I told you there's already a game with every single improvement I listed so far, plus functional police scanners with the best dispatchers I've ever heard?
Dispatch calling Unit 4, Lincoln 18. Citizens report a weapons incident, shots fired, on Jamestown Street. In Rancho, units respawn code 3.
A witness system that means keeping a heist quiet is a real priority. A gang system that includes getting ambushed in public. The ability to bribe the police with a percentage success chance based on money spent. What if I told you could sell drugs, be a getaway driver, kill witnesses for the police, bury bodies in the woods, pee on a hobo, sell stolen license plates, drink and drive on the freeway, fail the signal, all with mechanical considerations. And you certainly wouldn't believe me if I told you that one mod is less than 500 megabytes. I need to make it completely clear that this is the best open world crime game I have ever played without exception. It's a sandbox in the truest sense while also strongly encouraging immersive behavior through its many mechanics. This game might be GTA flavored, but it's its own game entirely, and I can't see myself playing GTA 5 or 4 for that matter anytime soon because of it. This mod is LSRed, and it fucking rocks. Things were heating up on the east side of LS. The Vagos were at war. The Varios were taking shots wherever they could. So Camilla decided her driving jobs needed a bit of protection. She didn't carry a gun, but a police scanner and some armor couldn't hurt. While she was at the dealer, he let her know she could drive for his crew delivering weapons, and things were too hot in LS. So she headed to Blaine County to pick up the van. After getting dropped off, she got a text. The Varios knew she was there, and they were coming. She knew she was clean, so she called the cops. After the Varios were dealt with and the scene was cleaned up a bit, she got in the van and made the long trek back to the warehouse. The next priority was a meal. Luckily, there's a Cluckin' Bell down the street, and after that, it was time for some sleep. But the Varios weren't done. They came straight to the heart of Vagos territory. She ran inside, laid under her bed, and boiled. Those motherfuckers. She looked at the text they'd sent her. These animals would pay. During the chaos the previous night, she picked up one of the guns off the street, and it was time to make use of it. Hothead that she was, she forgot to put the armor she bought on, and it was time to get hold of a clean vehicle. She figured it'd be easier to steal a car with the threat of a gun, but she hadn't considered the danger of pulling a gun in the wrong neighborhood. As the car she wanted started to pull away, she met her end on a bloody sidewalk. Most crime games are a power fantasy. An opportunity to goof around and do whatever you want in a big city where no one is big and bad enough to stop you. When Vince Vaughn's getting bitched out for not doing the dishes, he's playing GTA.
This is mass market appeal type shit.
Which isn't a problem, but what accessible design doesn't usually do well is provide consequences. A sentiment I keep finding myself uttering in videos and conversations is, the lows define the highs. Extraction shooters taught me this lesson. The more you have to lose, the bigger the feeling of reward when you win. Jiho grew up in Los Santos, and before he was old enough to drive, the Kongpei had him dealing. Small stuff, but hard stuff. He found himself frequently harassed by the cops in his neighborhood, and he never felt quite safe on the streets. Little did he know, he was less safe than he could have imagined. But one day, he called in a favor. Things were heating up with the triads, and he needed a loan. $25,000. And they gave it to him. He spent $20K of it on the organization's finest heroin, and got to work. After a day of slinging, he took a drive up Vinewood Hills with another gang member and got pulled over for speeding. As he was paying his ticket, he heard shots. The triads. The timing couldn't have been more fortunate, since as he sped away, a nearby police unit was dispatched as backup to take care of them. This wouldn't be the last time though. The next day, he got back to it. He walked around Little Seoul and continued dealing, only for one of his customers to get grabbed. Luckily, the cops didn't notice him, but that was insanely close. But somebody did notice. As Gio was sitting in traffic, the triads came back and took a shot at him. He was armed and took out the car, fleeing the scene before the cops arrived. He needed to get rid of these drugs fast, so he asked a homeless individual where he could find heroin customers. And they told him Pillbox Hill, Triad territory. Time to take it to them. While it definitely helped him offload some inventory, the Triads didn't take kindly and struck again. They ambushed Jiho when he was on foot, and the police weren't fast enough to protect him, so he had to shoot back. Luckily, as more Triad backup arrived, so did more police, and Jiho was able to use the chaos to escape on foot, and offload some more inventory under a bridge. At this point, he already had the money needed to pay back his loan, and maybe that's what he should have done. But instead, he found himself getting pulled over and decided today wasn't the day for a ticket. He evaded the LSPD and popped into a garage to respray his car and escape the authorities. Unfortunately, the authorities weren't his problem. When the garage door opened, the Triads were ready, and Jiho was not. To be clear, this isn't a permadeath mod necessarily. There is a setting for that, but I could have kept playing from here. Here's what the consequences of that would have been. Some of the cash and all the drugs on my person would be gone. That's probably another 20K or so of heroin along with a 30 grand in cash. Then the hospital would charge 40 or 50K, and since I had no money in the bank, that would all be added to my balance as debt. That's ignoring my obligation to kick up to the gang or pay off my loan. All of this is mechanical, and I could have played around it. And if it's too much for you, it's all configurable. You could set how much you pay when you die, you can respawn on the spot instantly, or give yourself 9 lives like a cat. It's a fun playstyle to just switch to another character when yours dies or gets arrested. The game just lets you do that, and that's really cool. Before we cover another character, I need to talk about how the police system works. I once escaped a wanted level by hiding under a bridge. When that wanted level ran out, the cops put a bolo out on me, so I had to hide under that bridge until they left. That was the moment I knew this mod was top tier. Once I was in a Discord call and I complained that the cops were pulling me over because my window was broken. My friend suggested just roll the window down, and not only did that work, the police didn't bother me about it anymore. This mod has mechanical considerations for doing a drive-by without rolling your window down first. That's insane. Alright, one more. Sal Caputo was a low-level enforcer for the Pavanos. He mostly ran protection, but he decided one day he was getting a little big for those britches and he wanted to impress the family. So he took a job as a getaway driver. Unfortunately, he wasn't quite the driver he thought he was, and his whole crew got nabbed by the police. He had a plan though. He handed the cop a stack of bills and told her, "You take these guys out and I'll work for you." And that was a good enough deal for Officer Friendly. So Sal walked away as his crew was fed to the pigs and planned his next move. Before he could come up with anything, the Gambettis took a shot at him, and as he hid in a dumpster, he knew who to blame. He quickly sold a stolen Banshee for a clean 20 Gs to a vehicle exporter and used the seed money to get himself a silenced marksman rifle and made his way to the north. One of the Pavanos up there was messing with Officer Friendly's rackets, so it was time to clean house. He got to an elevated position and fired his rifle, a clean headshot. He got to his stolen vehicle and took the back roads, but he wasn't used to the country driving and slammed into a rock. He decided to continue on foot and suddenly a cop drove by. But why would the cop stop him? They didn't have his description and he was way out here. Police respond to calls and crime scenes, not to individuals no one saw. Once back at the city, Sal collected his dead drop and decided it was time to lay low. 6 months later, he was still doing jobs for Officer Friendly and grabbing cars for the exporter at the docks. But every once in a while he would get pinched and it was a hell of an expense for the pocketbook. It was time for a big score. But for that you need equipment, so first it was time for a small score. He cased a Fleeca in Blaine County and saw they only had one guard out front with one teller. This would be cake. He rented a place in the sticks to lay low and broke into a nearby RV, finding himself a gun. When he hit the place, it was so quiet no one even called the cops. Now it was time to plan. He wanted to hit a bank on the coast, so he figured he could stash a boat under the pier and use a car to block it off. The only thing that would be a concern was any helicopter support, but if you know who to talk to, they sell solutions for that. The layout was the same as the country, but this time he would hit the safes. He got his hands on a drill, stole a car, and it was time to go. He walked in the front door and cleared the lobby. He wasn't messing around this time, so he went straight to suppressed headshots. When he made it to the vault, he was surprised to find another guard who promptly tased him. The police were on their way and he was stuck on the ground. Then Fortune came to rescue him. The door shut on the guard, giving Sal time to get off the ground and pull his gun. He got in his car and he made his way to the pier.
Units requesting helicopter support in Chumash.
Right on time. Once the chopper was dealt with, he dove off the pier, got on his jet ski, and rode off into the sunset. But Sal wasn't done quite yet. He happened to live just down the street from the biggest bank in Los Santos, and he thought he was ready to take it. First, he needed an escape route, ideally one that meant dumping his car and getting back to his own apartment where he could wait safely for the heat to die down. Right up the road was the loading area for delivery trucks. The route would have a ton of hard turns to break line of sight, then he could just torch the car and hop the wall and be right at home. Next, he needed to case the place. 2 guards on the first floor and another on top. The back room with the ATMs had a perfect angle on the first 2, and with a bit of luck, he could clear the top from there too. Controlling the crowd was going to be a nightmare, so he'd just have to move fast. With the situation understood, it was time to set up a getaway car. He got his hands on a Comet, armored it up, and with a tricked out rifle purchase, the time had come. He lucked out, the weather was grim, so the streets were just about empty. He headed in the bank, grabbed his rifle, opened the door, and shot the guards, and the bank was empty? He moved the tellers and held them up, then realized he could control this. He wiped out the tellers, cleared the drawers, and moved to the vault. After a few minutes of anxious drilling, he walked out the bank to a quiet street. He took his getaway route just in case, but the job was clean. Unbelievably clean. On the topic of cleaning, he needed to get these bills laundered, but he didn't want anyone looking for him, so he adjusted his look a bit, then headed to a forger. This score was going to be enough to get him out of the city and into a place in Liberty City. Oh, did I mention this mod's compatible with the Liberty City Preservation Project? That's right, a whole new map worth of content, ironically without a working map. It's something to do with Rage Hook, I'm not sure. Regardless, it's a whole new sandbox, now populated with things to do thanks to LSRed. It crashed just a bit too frequently for me to get you another character story, but it's still really cool. And I'm hoping I'm the one who messed something up because it's a very different experience. Before I started using this mod, I was trying to make my own roguelike sandbox mod pack, and I'm not kidding, I counted 16 of the mods I was using can be replaced with the single glorious plugin that is LSRed. If you're looking for any mods to add on top of these, the only ones I felt were truly needed were Drive V, which makes the vehicle physics more realistic and more hardcore, which fits the vibe of the overall project. The top speeds for fast cars is fast, and supercars feel like playing with fire in a really good way. It also makes drifting something you can actually do, which I think is an underrated part of the Getaway Driver fantasy. Imagine that Baby Driver scene, but without any drifting. I shudder at the thought. In conjunction with that, I either recommend flawless widescreen or dynamic first-person vehicle camera in order to make the driving immersive on a different level. Driving exclusively in first person with this one is a blast, and things like looking around for cops before you take an illegal turn or looking back to see your pursuers is much better when you can do it this smoothly and this quickly. The final mod that punches way above its weight is realistic gun sounds. The soundscape of crime films is extremely important, and the heat vibes come out to play with this one. It's hard to believe how much of a difference this awesome mod makes. I truly adore it. I think in general, a large majority of shooters can be greatly improved with mods like this one. I've used one for Hitman, Mafia 3, Watch Dogs, and GTA, and all of them were complete game changers. If you're wondering why my graphics quality is different in some clips, it's because I installed Natural Vision Evolved. I'm big on FPS, so I installed the older classic version, and I think it's a nice but subtle improvement. Again, if you haven't tried LSRed, I could not recommend it highly enough. All relevant links will be in the description. I wasn't joking when I said it replaced 16 mods, and I didn't know about this mod when I started this project, so there's 3,600 words in the script that's not in the video. If you'd like to read it, my Google Drive is available on my Patreon or via YouTube memberships. Members and patrons get early access to my videos, access to my scripts for videos I make and don't make, custom roles in Discord, and a named mention in my videos. Special thanks to Cookie, Sea Trouble, Days Canadian, Mariano Rabufo, and Sapast. I appreciate you all for watching, and as always, subscribe to my fucking YouTube channel.